talk about it. Let's talk about it. What you wanna say? Yeah.
All right. All right. Listen, we're back. Back in another episode of Let's Talk About It. And as always, I am joined by, you heard them, this great studio audience. That's right. Oh yeah, we're in here deep today. So speaking of today, today's show is a little different, okay? No guests, just me, all right? Hopefully that's enough. You know, I wanted to just flow today. I wanted to flow and just have conversations with you. I wanted to be able to share what I felt or what I'm thinking on various topics so that hopefully you would be empowered and encouraged to do so at home. I know often at home, in the worlds that we know, we get used to this bubble. We get used to these restrictions. We get used to these things that keep us from just flowing freely. And I think that the only way to really truly be who God wants you to be is to have free-flowing conversations. So today, I'm going to have conversations with you. You know, one of the things I'm going to talk about is something that I have not shared in a long time is, you know, just some of my earlier days in LA. I know that will help people, but at the same time, there's a point in which I will share that, and it's all tied into identity. So we're going to talk about identity a little bit. I know we're going to talk about relationships, and the purpose of them, and even getting in them, and why do we even want them? You know, we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about, you know, business and pursuit of business and various things like that. We're going to talk about relationships between parents and children and adulting and what that looks like in those relationships. So again, we're going to cover a multitude of things in a short period of time, but it's just going to be me and it's going to be you. So, what else? Hopefully this becomes something that we can do periodically, just switching it up, but also becomes something that I'll just feel more comfortable growing into with you. So I do want to share more. I do know that there are things that, you know, as a host of a show, you would like to know, and maybe that's it. We'll have those places for you to send in those questions and so on and so forth. Also, like, share, and subscribe always. Okay, don't forget that. And then let's see. Now that I got all this stuff out the way, let's go have a conversation with me and you. A conversation. Let's go. We'll be back. We'll see you.
I'm 30 years old and I'm based in Los Angeles, California. It was a prophetic service, it was Thursday, and I started manifesting, and Papa Lo pulled me out and delivered me from the spirit of suicide, from the spirit of death. There was a spirit that was telling me to take my life, and it was very much accurate to what I had been going through, saying, doing, and was getting ready to do.
All right. Welcome back. Let's get into it. Today, as I said earlier, the show is gonna be a little different. We spend a lot of times, just tackling some of the issues that seem to be a little bit more edgy, if you will, but we can take the opportunity to get to know each other a little bit better. So instead of me sitting down talking with the guests, I'm going to be sitting down talking to you, talking to you directly. I want you to know a little bit more about me, and I want you to also know how we got to this place. And what do I mean? Not just how we got to let's talk about it, but how I became even the type of person that I am. And I don't see myself as someone that is different than anyone else. I do think in a particular way that I find most people do, and there's a reason for that, and we're gonna talk about that. I want to just say shout out to, once again, the baddest audience in person. There's a lot of energy. That without them, that is very hard to pull off a lot of things. Now, what are we talking about today? We're talking about how we're going to become who we're supposed to be. We're talking about identity. We're talking about conversations. We're talking about, it's a plethora of things. So let's just jump right into it. When I started my journey to California, I always looked at it as I was going to be an actor. Now, I touched on this on another show, right? And the show with Will Catlett, I kind of told my story there. It's actually when I moved out here, this was like 12 years ago. I was so gung-ho on everything, and here I am booking things left and right. And finally, I get a nice sizable role. And when I got to set that day, I realized how much of the art I really enjoyed and how much I didn't. Shortly after, no auditions, completely dried up for me. And I began to question it, began to wonder, and then a year goes by. And when I say no auditions, I'd gotten used to getting callbacks. I mean, I had an amazing headshot. Like, my headshots were fire. Just on the headshot alone, you should call me in. And I'm like, I'm not even getting a call back, right? So that was fine. But then the auditions just kind of just dried up. Like, I'm clicking on things, nothing. I can't even go in to audition. And I remember, and I firmly believe this, sometimes you don't always ask God to bless what you are doing. You ask God to show you what he is blessing and do that. And so I remember I had this very earnest conversation with the Lord, and he highlighted business and he highlighted ministry. Shortly thereafter, I decided to stop acting altogether. And mind you, this is when I knew I could do it. This is when I knew, like, based on the comments and different ones around me, like, I heard things like, you're a natural. I heard those things. Made me feel very good to know I could look at a sheet of paper and then just digest these words, make them a part of me, and to deliver it in a way that becomes my own. It was a good feeling. I loved that. I got an opportunity to really just unleash some things, get some things off my chest. But share a very first. I'll find the clip, and we're going to make sure you see that clip also. But one of those things I had to learn about a desire was when to put it down. And I also had to learn when to move on. And a lot of what I've experienced in my own personal life, I am the youngest in my family, the first to go to college, but also I was the first out of my brothers to have a kid before marriage. Man, that time alone was just very difficult. I want to touch on that, honestly, on a whole nother episode when I talk about fathers. But from that perspective, I can tell you my whole entire being shifted. I went from thinking a child was a burden to understanding the blessings of children. Fast forward now, obviously married, having two beautiful little girls now. I still carry the effects of those days as a 26-year-old man that brought up in a religious home or a religious community, and I had to deal with the guilt or the burden of the mistake that I made. And I remember how often I judged my father whom just celebrated a birthday. I remember hearing that he had, we called them half brothers. This is how we grew up. I know most people don't really look at it as, like, my brother's my brother. If they're my sister, they're my sister. But we said half brother with the same affection that we did brother. It was almost like saying how you introduce yourself. If you say Mr., if you say whatever, that's just how. So it's my half brother. So I knew my dad had two sons before my mom. And I remember how judgmental I was over that man. Not because of that, no, but the mistakes, the errors that just come with life. I remember thinking I was so perfect that I had the audacity to be able to judge my own father. And I said, wait a minute, how could you? And I think it was more so, let me just say it like this. I think it was more so from the place of all children feel. They feel like they know best, and they feel like they have the right to judge their parents, really. And I know in my instance, I thought there was more for me out there. And so when mom or dad did not or could not supply that, I didn't blame them. I just looked at things as there's got to be a better way, a better day. So back to my father, when I was about 28, I found myself in this particular situation. What do I mean? I remember as a teenager, I would judge my father because of the jobs that he did not have or keep, and where and how that put the family dynamic in certain places. And I remember thinking, if all he had to do was XYZ, if all he had to do was just keep a job, all he had to do was. And I tell this story with having an amazing relationship with my dad. I love my dad more than anyone who really knows can tell you. But I tell this story because I'm free of all, like, judgment. Not just on him, but just of people. Because what happened when I was 28, I found myself unemployed, and I found myself with a kid sitting across from him. In the living room. And I remember thinking, wow, how quickly can things turn? All this time I looked at him and thought, why can't you this? Why can't you hold a job? Why can't you be there for this kid or be there for that kid? And you realize life is conditional. It's circumstantial. Life is not this way you cut it. Life has to be lived. And I asked my father a very tough question that day. Because let me tell you, I used to hear this story. The story I used to hear was, oh, things were just so good before you were born, right? Oh, so many, this and this. It's like all these resources and things seem to be so readily available. And I kind of had to take that on as, is it me? Now, mind you, imagine yourself born and you're a child and you keep hearing of how things were great before you got here. But yet you see your family dynamic now. You're like, dang. So I carried that for a long, long, long time. And I remember I asked my dad back in this living room, I'm unemployed, he's unemployed. I have a son. All these things I judged against him. And I said, Dad, what happened? He's like, what do you mean? I was like, I keep hearing this story of how things were so great before a certain time and how they changed. And now they're no longer the case. So I'm like, what happened? What happened? And before I tell you what he told me, this is the point of what we're talking about today. We're talking about conversations. And we're talking about confrontations. See, most of you look at being confrontational as negative, right? Harmful. But what if I told you that on the other end of that confrontation is your answer? Most importantly, what if I told you on the other end of that confrontation is your blessing? We can't be afraid to have conversations, which is what Let's Talk About It has always been about. You know, anytime I end every show, my most hopeful thought is that as the camera cuts, you turn left or right to your mom, dad, brothers, sisters, you know the whole thing. And you have things that's been burning in your heart and you're able to say, hey, I have something I want to talk about. Can I talk to you about that? Why is that important? It's important because you can be carrying around an unnecessary burden and keeping yourself from the purpose of God. So back to talking to my dad. Now, mind you, my dad, born in the 50s, raised up in the 60s, in his strut in the 70s now. And most people who have a father in that era, they tell you, not the most vocal, like conversational with their children, more, hey, you do this and you better do it, right? So I asked my father, what happened? How did we get here? And he began to tell me a story. And he told me the stories when he was a young man. He made a mistake on the job. And the mistake he made was he was trying to impress a friend. And one night, they're out having a good time and he decides to go to his job to show his buddy what he did and how he did it, and he ended up crashing a forklift into the properties of the company. And from that point on, he got fired. But not only was it being fired, it's like he didn't really bounce back from that in the way that I would imagine he would have wanted to. See, my heart always go out to men because I know men on their best day are like one bad thing away from just saying, forget it. On their best day. You know, I'm oftentimes myself referred to as having a certain confidence and having and showcasing a certain strength, and that's 100% true. And I'm thankful to God. I tell people all the time, I don't care if you're taller, richer, whatever. I would not want to trade lives with you 1 minute if I could not keep my own mind set. I wouldn't. But what I learned that day with my father was that my family wasn't cursed. He was just a young man who made a mistake, and he never got redeemed. Now, fast forward, I'm moving to LA, and I don't know, I guess I was becoming very spiritual at that time. And I asked my father, now my father is not a preacher. He loves the Lord, but he is not a preacher. If anything, more people have probably seen him in different lights than they would say in this particular light, and of a man of God. Now, before I moved to LA, I asked my father to bless me. And let me tell you why I did that. Some of you have people in your lives right now that mean the world to you. When times get tough, it's their voice you're going to hear. And I knew spiritually a father's blessing goes a long way. But I also knew by him blessing me, not only would it be encouraging, but I knew as that voice kept replaying, no matter what obstacle I would see, I would conquer. But here's the thing, my dad did not understand these things. So we literally got into like an argument. I'm like, Pops, I just want you to bless me before I go to LA. I just need you to bless me. I just need you to just say, son, you're going to be fine. Son, everything's going to work out. Son, da-da-da-da. And the thing is, this is his attitude towards me always. But I was getting him in a place where I'm wanting him to release a spiritual thing. Why? Because we see this in the Bible all the time. A father's blessing goes a long way, right? And I remember we got into like a little, and he's like, what do you mean you want me to bless you? I said, Pops, I really just want you to bless me. I got my blessing, right? But believe it or not, as a result of that blessing, since I moved to LA, have not lacked anything. Amen. And this is kind of where I want to go with this today is, what conversations are you not having that might be the thing that is holding you up from your blessings? See, some of you, it's not your dad, it's your mom. If it's not your mom, it can be, I don't know, a grandma, aunt. It can be a friend. It can be a brother or a sister. This is why I want to encourage you. Being confrontational is really you seeking the answer for a purpose. It's not for no reason. Why are we doing this? Why did this happen? You know, I believe why is probably one of the most powerful words and questions, and people don't ask why. Even in my personal life, I see more people who just go with the flow. And I'm not saying that's not a state of mind. I do like to just be chill. But there's a saying that says people take the path of least resistance. So what does that mean? Well, if I know talking to me might come with questions, But talking to Sue is going to be like, okay, why talk to me? Just talk to Sue. And I believe too many of us are allowing the ease of things to determine our lives and not choosing to go after the more difficult parts of life. You know, when I first moved to, after I moved to LA, now I'm going to tell you something I've never told people. I've had, and this is before any churches that because I think when I moved here, I didn't go to a church for like a couple years. Nothing against churches, I just thought I was good. And I had an identity issue. I know you're probably like, what? What? Okay, let me explain. Anybody ever heard of Usher Raymond? A couple people. Some laughter in the audience. Well, long time ago, when I was in high school, I think I was first approached by like one person, and they said, "Oh, you know, you kind of look like, you know, this Usher guy, right?" This was a minute ago, so bear with me. So I said, "Oh, cool. I don't even know who he is, right?" Then all of a sudden, this guy just blows up, just pow, right? Just goes crazy, right? Just successful, uber successful, musically, dancing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now it's to the point where, and I'm going to show you some pictures to give you an idea. And it got to the point where some things were so, let me say it differently. Some moments were so crazy because of that I was like, what in the world is happening? It got to the point where people affectionately would call me by his name, and I just answered to it, yeah, cool. Yeah. College was, hey, yeah. Ush, yeah, what up? Hey, cool. Little did I know the effect of that on my life. So from 16 until like maybe, I'm gonna give you some years so y'all can, if I give you the years, you'll go back and be like, dang, yeah, I get it. So probably 2000, no. I would say probably like 97, yeah, about 97 is when it started. And I would say roughly 2013, 14 is roughly when it kind of, so from that time to that time. And I took it so much on as an identity that one of my first jobs of moving to LA was doing Usher impersonating. It's very, very true. Like, you know, people see me today and they go, oh, you like to dance, but you don't even know the half of it. Like, no, I can really dance. I mean, I do a lot of dad moves now, you know, I got a little, no. I do a lot of dad moves now, but, you know, I mean, I could really like dance, right? And I thought, as a business mind, well, shoot, if people are saying this and they lose their mind, why not just create it into a business? So I've always been on this business stuff, right? So my first job when I got here was Usher impersonating. But it wasn't even in LA. It was an agency back somewhere that was hiring me to do it. And I remember I landed in it. I was in LA probably two days, and I get a call saying, would you be open to doing this birthday party, this bar mitzvah? I said, sure. I was like, whoa. I was like, where is it? He's like, Bethesda, Maryland. And I'm like, I just moved to LA. I'm sorry. I'm like, well, tell me about it. What does it pay? He says, well, it'll only be 10 minutes. I said, okay, like still not worth it. What does it pay? He says, oh, it'll be $800. I said, $800 for 10 minutes? He said, yeah, we'll fly you out. We'll put you in a hotel. We'll give you a driver and everything. Sign me up, right? But this is a fun part. But what I'm trying to tell you is what I want to tell you is because of that whole life, I got lost. In my own identity. I didn't know who JT was for a very long time. A long time. I had no idea who I was. Not because I would go home to a mansion and go on concerts and tours. No, it's because the world around me would only, how can I say, the world around me would only acknowledge what they saw, what was familiar to them. And it made me marginalized. But this is what I learned. There's a lot of people out here feeling marginalized. Now, I've been able to do whatever I want to do my whole life. Sports, you name it. Whatever accolade, I've gotten it. But that still did not stop me from being marginalized. So it tells me one thing. We have more people out here living and not knowing who they are, or living and feeling overlooked than you might realize. And this is why I want to say why the conversations and things are super important. Now, what happened with this whole Usher thing was time happened. I got older, but I remember my last job. Like I would go to Vegas several times, right, to do this dancing, lip singing stuff. I mean, it was crazy. And I remember I ran into this Sammy Davis Jr. guy, this Sammy Davis Jr. impersonator. And he was just talking about how much he just didn't like the life and how much he hated it. But he felt like there was nothing else he could do. And it was at that point in time I was like, you know what, I'm not going to let this be my life. Why would I allow something wonderful God made become a second version of something else he already made? But I say this because I had a real fixture I was dealing with. There was this big superstar image or celebrity, and then there was this likeness. Now that was just my life, right? But some of you are dealing with the same things. And it's not that, you may not look like a celebrity, you may not have this, but some of you, even within your own selves, you've marginalized yourself. You know, a lot of the main questions I get is, how and why are you so bold? Number one, we only got one life to live. But let me take you guys to a place, right? It's gonna sound crazy for a second. How many of you guys in here believe time travel exists? Okay. You know, there's a lot of hands up. I don't even want to ask them what they talk about. Okay, so we got a lot of hands up in the room. Time travel is really, this is all time travel is. Let me ask you guys a question, right? This is what people at home. When you think back on the past, what is that called? And you guys can answer too. What is that called?
Remembering.
Huh? Remembering. What is the past? What's a past thought called?
Memory.
It's a memory, right? Now, you can't change it, right? Now, I want us to stop right here. You can't change a past memory, right? Okay. So you would say it's locked, right? So past memory you can't change. It's locked. That means that anytime you go back and you think, daggone man, I wish I didn't choose that red hat that day. No matter how many times you think about that memory, you picked up that red hat and you put on that red hat, right? It's a locked memory. Most people look at their memory through the lens of what? Things they can't change above a past memory. It's called a what? It's called a regret, right? Okay, we track it. So just so we're all together, you look at the past, it's a locked memory, meaning there's nothing you can do about it, but you look at it, things you can't change about the past, it's called a regret, right? If the past is a locked memory, what is right now? It's an unlocked memory. It's an active memory. Now, you have a past memory and you have a present unlocked memory. We're still tracking. So if all right now is a memory, that means that what's the opposite of regret? Let me say it differently. What keeps you from having a regretful present moment? Boldness. What do I mean? Why is it every time you look back at that past memory that you regret, you go, dang, I wish I would have I wish I would have. But what if I told you that right now, as long as you are present, instead of thinking about, ooh, what I wish I would have, you can already begin to think of what would the next 10 years of my life look like and start to determine that now. Because see, there's a version of you 5, 10 years from now is going to look back on you today and go, dang, I wish I would have. But if you just activate boldness in the present moment, it automatically allows you to start making the decisions to see and be where you want to be and do what you want to do in the 10 years or 5 years or whatever from now. So when you 5, 10 years from now look back at this moment, are you going to look back with regret or are you going to look back saying, dang, I did everything I wanted to do? This is what I carry in my mind and why I'm bold, why I'm not timid in most things. It's because I know I'd rather live with very little regrets as possible. And so, I wanted to share a little bit about some of these things because where my freedom came was an understanding with my father. It was understanding that he was human. He did not curse the family. He made a mistake. Therefore, when you make a mistake, once you do that, you can be redeemed from a mistake, right? Yeah. It's important as children that we don't hold mistakes over our parents. You know, one of the main things I tell people to do all the time is, especially ones who have parental issues, I want you to think back to how old your mother or your father was when they had you. And I want you to compare with where you are currently. And I want you to ask yourself, do you have it all together? I promise you once you do that, you'll start to understand a certain humility that needs to be administered, not just to your parents, but to yourself. You'll start to understand a certain grace that's needed. Now, in terms of the usher days, that was fun. But what it did for me was it showed me how quickly and easily we can get caught up in a thing that we can lose sight of ourselves. Everywhere I turned, it was like, yo, Ush, and I was like, and I kind of was going with it. It was popular, it was good, but all the while, JT is doing like this, like this, like this. So, one day I asked the Lord, I said, what was the whole point of that? I know you didn't make me to even be anywhere close to somebody else's image. Like, what was this all about? And the Lord said to me very, very specifically, he said, no, I did that so that you will be familiar to people. I did that so that when people see you, they think, oh, I'm seeing a friend, or I'm seeing like somebody that I feel like I know, because of the things of God that I have to do in your life. So this is how we got to LA. From the kid at 16, no, I'm sorry, I said 16. That's like a Lifetime story. I had a kid at 16. That's somebody's story. But no, being a young father at 26, and not knowing a lot about that whole thing, I had to journey through that. I had to journey through identity. And I realized also that God has always helped me to see people who feel small because of it. That's why I'm drawn to people that don't feel like they see themselves properly. Why? It's because I've been on college campuses, I've been in certain environments, party environments, whatever, being like the guy, but still feeling like this. So I know how much more so if that's not your everyday. Everybody doesn't know your name. Imagine if everybody knows your name and you still feel like this. Now, I'm not talking low self-esteem. I'm talking about unseen. There's a lot of unseen folks out there. Unseen. Now, what I'll do now is I'll take a break, and when I come back, I'm going to finish up with some things that I feel like will be helpful, some things that I think I was kind of hesitant to share, but I'll share them because today we're doing something different on the show. I'm having a conversation with you. I'm talking about it. I'm talking about me. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about things, but I'm talking about things that hopefully helps you talk about things where you are. So we'll be back in just a minute.
I know you got me as long as I breathe. I know you got me. Ooh, I know you love me unconditionally. Why should I worry?
All right, welcome back. So this is just, a different show today. No guests, just me. Some rawness, some vulnerability, some, just some things that I wanted to touch on, and hopefully give you a different or more of a insight, I would say, of me, Earlier in the break, someone asked a question about, if your father is no longer living, and well, let's say it like this. With the loss of a parent or a loved one that's a parent, how do you go about getting a blessing from them? And the answer is this. As I was sharing with her, you may not necessarily need one, right? I know I needed one from my dad. And mind you, like just even the time I've been in LA, like I've not had a lack, so it's pretty amazing. But you may not need one. However, if your faith requires it, my faith required it. Yeah, could I just come out here and just do my thing? Absolutely. But I felt like the blessing was direction. I felt like the blessing is when someone says, you can, you will, and everything will be fine, no matter what circumstance I was looking at, it would work. So I would say to you, without a loved one or parent, that if your faith truly requires it, then obtain that blessing from someone else you revere, that you love and respect, that means more to you than someone else, because that will then go a long way. So while we're talking, someone had asked me to talk about purpose. And one of the questions that I got was about purpose, and it says, how do you know which business to pursue? That's a great question. I would say this. There's a lot of opportunities in the world. You may or may not see them because of your distractions. But in order for you to know what business to pursue, most likely you're looking to start one. So if you're looking to start a business, then the best business to pursue is the one that, and this is just biblical. God has already given it to you. It's in your hand already. What do I mean? Most people negate the gift that is inside of them before they choose to go after something. So for instance, you might connect well with people. You might be a great speaker, but you might choose to go work at a retail place. You use that gift every day to sell clothes, but you won't use that gift to work for you. So in terms of how do you know what business to pursue, it's the one that is closest to your gift. I remember with Prophet Lovi, Papa Lo said to me, he said, JT, you're a businessman. JT, you're a businessman. JT, you're a businessman. Now, I've had businesses and things like that, but I didn't even understand it at the time. I thought favor was just open doors. I just truly believed the open doors of God always were coming in my direction. But then he helped me to see that in being a businessman, it's more of a mentality. So the question is, how do you know what business to pursue is based on your mentality towards business. I see everything as a business, honestly. But if you are someone that maybe you got several things. I tell people this. Some people say, I got so much I want to do, I don't know where to start. Start with the strongest one first. Start with the one that you believe can get going, that you can get support behind, that you can have a firm foundation behind, because that's the one that is the strongest. Once you get that one going, you have to put all of your things, you have to put everything into one thing. Don't make the mistake of thinking you're going to cast a wide net and do everything at one time. Focus on the one thing. Make that successful. Then move on to the next thing. But make that the ground or the foundation of your efforts. Make this first thing, work first. Don't get so caught up or confused with, but I have so many ideas. I tell those folks all the time, just hone in on one thing and get going. There's a lot of people that are big picture people, but they don't know how to start with the first step. Am I right? The difference between a business-minded person and just a imaginative thinker is they know how to get the first step going. So the one that you know you can get going, start there. There's not really any wrong thing you can get behind. Let me say it differently because I don't want to, I think that's like kind of vague. Don't do anything that will be to a detriment of other people. I remember I went to my son's birthday party where he's at, and it was at like this. It was like a barcade, right? It was a cool little thing. It had arcade games over here. It had like old retro gaming systems, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I'm like, I want to get back to LA and I want to do that. But in the middle was a bar, right? And I remember I went I was looking into it, and I remember I was asking questions about it, and I remember bringing this to the prophet, like, yeah, I know what I want to, this is something I want to look into. And he helped me understand, like, if it's going to cause detriment to people, alcohol selling is a detriment to people. Don't do it. I know you probably say, what about weed dispensaries? Just because it's legal don't mean it's not a detriment to people. Now, I'm not a weed smoker. I can't tell you anything about weed, really. I would say that in my lifetime, I've tried everything maybe at least once. But that's just my mindset is of the curiosity mindset. Like I need to understand it in order to even speak on it. So, but I can tell you that if it's to a detriment to people, don't do it. If it's something that you know that is a part of you, meaning something that you know you can continue to flesh out. I tell people this also. Business and starting a business is like being married. Don't start a business or don't even invest or do anything in business that you don't want to be married to. A marriage is not just happy every day. Marriage is work. Marriage is like dig in, dig out. Like you have to get in there. So if you think about a business, something that you're thinking about, because I know everybody got ideas. Some things are not a business, some things are a product, right? Oh, I got this great idea for, well, is it a business or is it a product? That's always the first question I ask. Is it a business or a product? You might have a great product. Just do the research to see what it would take to get the product to market. Maybe it's through licensing, et cetera, et cetera. But a business is a huge commitment, okay? So another question that I got was, it's kind of, we're talking freely today. So things that single men want in a wife. Huh? What are some things that single men want in a wife? Okay. Well, let's talk about it, right? Here's the truth. I kind of almost wanted to just talk about soulmates and things today, but another day, right? Here's the truth. The Bible says, how many of us in here speaks English? Right? What kind of question is that? Because it means we had to learn it, right? Even if you speak it, you had to learn English, right? As an author and a writer, trust me, the word placements are meaningful. In the Bible, you see a comma is powerful. A semicolon is powerful. So the Bible says that he who finds a wife finds a good thing. The Bible does not say he who finds the wife. What is that saying? How did that change? Because if you say the, you're saying the one, the individual, specifically this one. But if you say it is saying any, many. Well, let me not say many, because some of y'all thinking meaning many to choose from. So things that a single man wants in a wife, I think I'm going to have to kind of rephrase that. What are some things single men look for in a woman in order to know she's a wife? Thank you. That's me. So I'll say this. That's a great question. I would first start with character. Biblically, you see the Proverbs 31 woman, and you read all these various things, but it's talking about a character, right? It's talking about a character. If you even read in the Bible where Abraham's servant was seeking a wife for Isaac, and he says, Lord, let me find success, that she may ask me if I want water and also give water to the camels, right? That's character. It's kind of like somebody walking into your house and you go, hey, go ahead, how you doing? Sit down. Would you like something to drink? Would you like something to eat? Is there anything I can get for you? Do I need to run to the store? It's all character. Can I do something for you? It's seeing and putting yourself in a back seat, if you will, and allowing that person, that man at that time, to see that you have the capacity of putting him before you. But that's what all relationships are anyway. You got to have a balance, right? You can't just be, I tell people this, if you're selfish, you will never be in a relationship. If you're selfish, you don't need to be in a relationship. Why? Because selfishness kills relationships. It's the death of a relationship. You have to be selfless. So some things that I know particularly from, for instance, my wife, character was there, sense of humor. I mean, that might be high on some people's list, low on some people, but sense of humor goes a long way. Think of marriage like this. Like, you don't have to do it, right? You don't have to get married. Why would you choose to get married? You're choosing to get married because you're understanding that life is better with two. Two heads better than one. And you're choosing to have a partner, a life partner. So, who would you want to be married to? You want to be married to somebody that will make life easier to do, life with. And I was sharing earlier with some of the, I know Pastor Todd and his wife was in here, and he threw out, a topic of, what did he say? Because I was asking everyone today, what should we talk about? Because we just go to flow. And he goes, working with your spouse. And I was like, it's not everybody's reality, but the truth is this. I personally, since he said it, I mean, may not recommend it, but I don't personally recommend it. Why? Because some of y'all believe marriage is, oh my God, I just love you every day. Oh my God, I just want to see you. I'm like, No. I don't know if it was on this show or it was somewhere else, but I said like, the reason why marriages work is because you once were dating, living in separate places, and you talked a little bit throughout the week to build up to the date night. You saw each other on the date night. Oh my God, I love you so much. And you had a good time, and then you went back your separate ways. That's what dating is, right? Marriage is work because you're seeing each other every day. That thrill of, you know, how ladies, ooh, when he comes out, ooh, he looked fine. Oh, or, man, she was bad. One of them heels was, you see them getting dressed when you're married. You see them preparing. You, like, for instance, I mean, even me, like, I'm like, my wife's getting ready. Let me get ready in this one, you know, this bathroom. Just because there still has to be this moment of, ooh, right? Right? But the thing is, the reason why marriage becomes work is because you technically can be desensitized from all of them. Not that they mean less, not that the you love them less, and not that they're not as equally beautiful or handsome, but it's not the same as it was when it was dating, right? So I say this, when you're looking for a particular or a potential spouse, think of someone that the good, bad, and the not. No, the good, bad, and the ugly that you will. He wants to be. You want to talk? You want to talk? Like the good, bad, and the ugly that you'll be cool with, like on a daily. And this is my advice. My particular advice is look for someone that you can grow with. Look for someone that can correct you. Look for someone that you can also correct, or, you know, someone that you can also give counsel. Like, look for someone that's a friend. That's ultimately what I'm saying. Look for a friend. There's this whole other thing I want to get into. I think I want to save it for another thing, but matter of fact, I'll give you a little bit now. The issue is some of you who are single, the reason why you're not married is because you're overlooking a character trait that is too familiar to you. What do I mean? Okay? This is what I'm saying. God created Adam. True? Okay. And also, there was Eve, right? Okay. So, if Adam is the son of God, right? Eve is the daughter of God, right? Is that just basic, or is that too? Okay, right? So, Adam and Eve, father is God. So that means that Adam and Eve are. Now, before you tune out, this is what I want to tell you. Some of you are missing it is because those who are single, you're missing it because the devil has perverted the familiarity of character that works for you and has made you say, "You just like my brother. You just like my sister. You remind me." And because of that, you've chosen to overlook that character and go for the more toxic character traits. Now, all I'm saying is, when you think of how God has designed it, when you think of mom and dad, they're to represent who? God, right? Let me put it to you like this. Let me say it like this. If you are a young man, you have mom and dad, you have God's love, the masculine and feminine. If you have brothers, you have a representation of friendship. But if you have a sister, if your brothers are covering the friend, your sister is supposed to show you a character that works for you. You ever notice why both male and female married couples, right? Both men and women, who are married, people say, ooh, y'all look alike. Are y'all brother and sister when they don't know? Oh, no. Or you see a brother and sister that you don't know a brother and sister. Are y'all married? No, that's my brother, that's my sister. There's something there that you are missing in that character. The reason why your sister can get on your nerves, but also be the one that tell you the truth about yourself, but also be nurturing like mom, is because that's the same character you're supposed to be looking for. But you see a woman that reminds you too much like your sister, you're like, ah. Or in the reverse, you see a man, he's attentive, he's protective, he's kind, he's generous towards you. The first thing you think of, he's like my brother. Too good. Nope. I don't. Nope. Yep. Like my brother. But this is the thing I'm saying. God has already prepared us. He's already prepared us. Let me just say it differently. If your mom and your dad represents him, and your sibling, your opposite sex sibling, let me say it like your same-sex sibling represents a friend. He's already giving you downloads, experience of all you need in this world to survive. You have a love of God and you have a friend. But if you have an opposite sex sibling, there's a character there that he's already prepared you for, to say how to identify my husband and or wife. That's why you see when people have been married for a long time, not only do they start looking alike, but they even begin to play like brother and sister. Because think about it. You have zero prerequisite of what a marriage should be. See, they tell you dating is the prerequisite of marriage. No, it's the prerequisite of building a romantic relationship. But the prerequisite of marriage is a bond deeper than romance. And it comes from a whole nother place. And you're probably like, well, I've never seen it. You probably have. You just discount it. You discredit it. Now, maybe you're one of those situations where you're the oldest and all you have is little siblings and various things like that. Then, I can understand that. But what I'm saying to you is this. As we are looking for our people in this world, It's not that difficult. But I can assure you, you've made it difficult. And I can assure you that it doesn't have to be. And I'm going to actually talk about this in my next book that's coming. And we're going to break this down in biblical ways, because my now book in business and in dating, come on, hand clap, hand clap. You can just toss it. You just toss it. You just toss it. So my now book in business and in dating, how to navigate relationships and make tough decisions like a boss. The whole point of this book is to help navigate some of these areas that help or that keep you from making or identifying relationships that work for you. Not only does it help you into getting out of your own way, the whole point of it is all about making effective decisions. It parallels interviewing for a job as no different than dating. Why is that? Because some people interview very well for a job. Some people love interviews. But those same people won't necessarily say they know how to date. And you got some people that don't mind dating. Oh, I just go on dates wherever, but they don't necessarily know how to interview. So that's just one of the things. But this is just meant to connect the dots between some of the practices that businesses use and marry it to your thinking, your life, because at the end of the day, what I want is I want you to see yourself as a company. I want you to see yourself with that value. Like even chapter 1, it says, you are the CEO of your life. Look how powerful that is. I'm the CEO of your life. When you are the CEO, you're sitting in the chair that's making decisions for your life. Who can approach you with a bad business deal? Wait a minute, does this work for me? I don't know. So the life and the breadth of this book comes from 1 Corinthians 7:35. And this is where Paul is saying, and we know Paul is Paul now. Paul, what I love about Paul, and this kind of ties into the last episode, just regarding the last episode, just regarding the women, should women preach, it was Paul's statement that has set this whole thing afire, right? But what I love about Paul is, in Corinthians specifically, he isn't shy from saying, this is what the Lord says, but now this is what I'm saying. So the interesting thing is how we can turn things into doctrines and things like that when the man clearly, the Apostle Paul is clearly stating there are times in which I'm saying what God is saying and I'm saying what I'm saying. What he says in 1 Corinthians 7:35, he just says, the things in which he's telling you about being single, about being married, etc., etc. He's not saying these things to deter you. He's not saying these things to even, he's saying these things to encourage you, not to discourage you. But he's saying, I want you to do the things that will cause you to be least distracted in life so that you can be more focused on God. And what I've always understood that to mean is, how effective are you to God if all you're thinking about is who you're dating? Ooh, I just want a girlfriend. I just need a girlfriend. Oh, I just want a boyfriend. How effective are you to him? And how much of a distraction is that really? Because if relationships, which is a hot topic always, is the number one thing on a lot of people's mind, then you need to get on the other side of that hump so you can see what there's more to life. Right. Says the married person in the room. Because I can assure you, married people tell single people all the time, take your time, slow down. But single people say, oh, I can't wait, I can't wait, I can't wait. It is not because it is not your portion, but it is simply because, let's just say it like this, you've made more of it than what it has to be. And God wants you to have somebody. God wants you to be blessed. God wants you to walk in the fullness. Why? It's because it's when man and woman come together that we're now joining back to what he intended. But if you become, and that becomes, I should say, the only thought you can have. I mean, it says it. We want what we don't have, right? We're all the time thinking about what we don't have. We always think the grass is greener. So what I'm going to be doing coming up is, I just did some months ago, I did like a 4-week book club of the book. And it was, we did like 4 weeks where we went through the chapters, and then at the end of the week, every Friday, we had like a 1 hour, actually ended up being like 2 hour Zoom sessions where we we went in depth and questions were asked and so on and so forth, and it was a true blessing. So I'm going to be doing it again very, very soon. I would say in May 15th. I'm going to open it up again. We'll be doing this. And then look, we get an hour together, maybe 2, I don't know. Listen, it really was supposed to be 1 hour. And it was, you know, the attendees had such a good time, and honestly it became such a thing to look forward to on those Fridays. So 4 Fridays at the end of each week, we do the Zoom. So we'll be on camera together, and during the week you'll be assigned. I think it's like 2 to 3 chapters. You'll read them. We'll talk about it at the end of the month, at the end of the week, and we ask questions. We really, really unpack it and go from there. So be on the lookout for that information. And let's see. Yeah, be on the lookout for that. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. I look forward to talking with you guys. If you haven't gotten this book, In Business and in Dating, you can go to Barnes & Nobles. You can go to Amazon.com. You can purchase the book there. And I've been asked to do a audio version. I am still trying to plan that. Should I do an audio version of the book? Yeah, audio. The audio version of the book. Is it because people don't like reading? What is it? People don't have the time to sit down. Oh, you can listen to it in the car. Okay. So, you'll be helping, sir. I'll be help. Okay, so we're gonna do an audio version of the book. But in the meantime, you can sign up for the book club coming up shortly. And I think, in terms of today's show was meant to just be a free flow. I want to encourage you to take the time to really just reflect on your life a little bit, like to really think of these various areas, these various topics, from identity to purpose to business, to relationship, to what singleness looks like, to how important dating is and what does it really mean. These are the things that make up life. Like, we don't have just one conversation with people, right? It kind of just, but what I really, really want you to leave here with is this. I encourage you to, wherever you feel the most fear and hesitancy, and I was going to say bondage, but it's time for you to make that into your strength. Where I'm at now is, if I feel the tinge of fear, I said, oh yeah, I know I got to go towards that heads on. I'm like, I don't want to do. Public speaking is a #1 fear. They say statistics. Like, some people fear getting up in front of people as much as they fear a gun being pointed at them. And it's strange. But I say to you, if you fear it, now I'll say this respectfully. Some of y'all might be like, I just want a bungee jump. I don't even want a bungee jump. But I say to you, in terms of your character development and growth, don't let fear rob you of anything. If it's a conversation, which is what Let's Talk About always seeks to usher in. If it's a conversation, have the conversation. Some of you don't even know how your parents met. Some of you don't even know. Some of you don't even know your neighbors. Some of you don't protect yourselves. What do I mean? I like to ask people why they want to know things. Somebody, hey, no one has so much access to you that they can just get everything all the time. But I believe some of you believe asking why is a bad thing. You know it's your right to ask why? Like, where are you going? Why? Like, why do you really want to know that? Why do you really, you know how powerful just why is? You got time to talk today? Why? What are you doing this Saturday? Why? See, some of us, we're so used to being so gracious with our answers and our time that we just go, where are you about to go? Oh, I'm about to go, What are you doing this Saturday? We're so forthcoming with information that we are not protecting ourselves. And before you know it, because you chose not to ask why, you have now followed up with a yes that you did not intend on giving. And the thing about yes and why you should be more cautious of your yes is because a yes is costly. A yes is very expensive. It takes away from your personal time. It takes away from family. It takes away from that peace that you need. So ask the questions in your life. Talk to your boss. How do you think I'm doing? See, this is another thing. Some of you only want positive things said. So therefore, you don't ask questions in the event that you'll hear something you don't want to hear about yourself. Ask those questions. What should I be doing differently? What can I improve on? How can I make our communication better? How can I be a better husband? How can I be a better wife? How can I be a better sister? How can I be a better brother? We don't want that smoke because we only want to stay in this peaceful, untouched place. I shared this a long, long time ago, and I'll end with this. And the reason why I'm a little bit all about poking this bear is because I know the mandate God has given me. My mandate is to bring people out their shells, bring people out of this conformity way of doing things, and to really be who you're supposed to be. You'd be surprised how many people are just not who they're supposed to be. You'd be surprised how many people are so quiet in a room when they got the answer. I ain't gonna say nothing because I don't want people looking at me. You'd be surprised at how many people, I know I was sharing with Prophet Taryn, I started school stuttering. So that means that anytime I opened my mouth, stammers came out. I mean, now I can talk all day and that not even happen. But look at how even mentally that can mess with you. You got something you want to say, and the moment you open your mouth, it doesn't come out the way it should. You know how much that can mess with you over time? But this is how people are. People got the same mentality and they do not stutter. What if it doesn't come out? Some people live in the what if. And that what if never happens. So free your mind to understanding more of the things of God. Like I said, this episode took a little different of a flow, but I just wanted to just talk. And we'll be back. We'll be back next week with our guests and our great topics and things like that. But I don't want it to ever be where you feel that you can't use your own voice to talk. So, like I said, it was my honor to just sit amongst you and just flow today. No real rhyme, reason, no real aim, just talking, you know. And because this is what I want you to do. I want you to be comfortable with talking, be comfortable with the conversation, having just a conversation, no matter what, you know. If it's a burden in your family, you know, there's a such thing as family secrets. Why? Why is it a family secret? Because that secret is creating bondage. So I don't want to go down that whole rabbit hole, but I'll just say this. I thank you for being here. I want you to love on your loved ones. Tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your brothers and sisters, tell your aunties, uncles, tell your cousins, tell your neighbors, tell I don't talk enough about godchildren. Tell your godchildren, tell your play cousins. Is that even a thing anymore? But let them know that it's time to talk, okay? And if it's time to talk, let's talk about it, all right? We'll see you next time, next episode.